All right, we're back. Have we got Cassie Jaye? Yep. Cassie Jaye, many of you know that I've been a little slightly critical. I may have said a critical word now and again about the feminist movement. And in keeping with that spirit, I wanted to bring on this actress, award-winning director, and an actress, Cassie Jaye. She's creator of The Red Pill, a documentary that dives into the men's rights movement. But it was a catalyst that changed her own views. And that's what I want to talk to her about. Cassie, have we got you there? I cannot see you.
Hello.
Hi, I can hear you, but I can't see you. All right. Well, they can see you, but I can't see you. So I'm going to just oh, there you are. That's nice. Now it's nice to see you. How are you doing? I'm glad you could come on. It's nice to meet you.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on.
So let's just start with your story, because people keep hearing little bits and pieces of your story. But why don't you just tell what happened? You went off to make a film about the men's movement. So just let me know how that worked out.
Okay, so it was 2013. At that point, I'd been directing documentaries since 2008 when I was 21 years old. And I was a staunch feminist of about 10 years. And I stumbled across the online men's rights movement, specifically the website of voiceformen.com, which was touted as the most kind of controversial and inspiring debate and disgust and triggering moments for a lot of feminists. So I stumbled across that website and I was fascinated by it. I had never heard many of those talking points before, and I myself was very offended by what I was reading. And at the time I was planning on making a film about rape culture, which this was before The Hunting Ground, so there wasn't a film about that yet. And so I shifted gears and decided to make a film about the men's rights movement, because no documentary filmmaker had ever interviewed actual men's rights activists and let them share what they believe on camera before. And I thought I was going to be filming a bunch of misogynists, and that would be the whole film, is just showing men who hate women and using that story to show why we still need to fight for women's equality because of this. So that's how I went into the project.
But it didn't stay that way. I mean, basically, you saw something different than you were expecting.
Right. So the whole film took 3.5 years to make. I spent 1 year filming men's rights activists and 3.5 years making it. And it was released in October 2016 in theaters. And through the process of not only just that year of filming, but also the many years of post-production, going through all the raw footage that I had of men's rights activists talking about what they believe, I realized that a lot of my feminist kind of knee-jerk reactions to what they were saying didn't match up with I was so offended by what they were saying, but the more I started to listen to it, the more I realized that there was a lot of truth to what they were saying. And then I started researching what they were telling me and finding that they were on the right side of the research. And then I started to kind of see the feminist smokescreen, so to speak, for lack of a better way to put it, of how much misinformation is being put out by feminists regarding the gender wage gap and rape statistics on college campuses and all these things. And so basically what I kind of took away from the filmmaking process, and this isn't included in the film, so this is not a spoiler, and it's probably new information for people who have seen the Red Pill movie. One of the best things about making the Red Pill movie was I actually now feel more empowered as a woman dropping my feminist belief system, because I no longer walk through life thinking that everyone's out to get me just because of my gender. And so it's actually very empowering transformation.
That really is interesting. I mean, that's got to have affected your personal life too, right?
Yes, especially with my now fiance, who was also my cinematographer on The Red Pill. He was with me the entire process from starting back when I was making feminist documentaries. And it just really improved our relationship as far as me actually trying to put myself in his shoes and seeing the challenges he faces and the expected roles that he should play out as a man, and all the many ways that I'm privileged as the woman in our relationship, and also in the business world. I just see so many different ways that I'm privileged as a woman, and I know that's not something feminists want to hear, but
I'll say, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's got to have. I started out as a liberal, became a conservative, and I faced immense hostility, not only personally but professionally. Have you experienced that as well?
Yes, it definitely weeded out a lot of my, friendship circles and working colleagues. Just releasing this film, there wasn't many direct conversations like, I am no longer going to work with you because of you making the Red Pill movie. But there's clear, kind of ostracization from the people I used to work with, because before making the Red Pill, I was making documentaries for the International Museum of Women and films about trying to get more girls into STEM education, and films on gay marriage and LGBT rights. So I was very much that was my world. I live in the San Francisco Bay Area, so it's, I'm very much in a bubble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one of the things that happened to me, I mean, I'm, obviously much older, and the things that kind of turned me around was I saw that I felt that blacks were suffering from the policies that I had always believed were supposed to help them. And I saw that the Cold War was won by the guy that everybody said was a terrible warmonger, Ronald Reagan, and, that the people who were on the right turned out to be right. One of the things I found is that once I started to see some of these things, see through what you called the smoke screen, it was hard to stop seeing that one thing led to another. There was kind of a chain reaction. Have you found that to be the case?
Absolutely. And that's why the title of the film is The Red Pill. I mean, there's no going back. You can't see the world the same way again, ever again. And I wouldn't want to, even though I think it is a little bit more of a darker existence, seeing how much is wrong with the media and Hollywood, obviously, and social media and higher education, universities, all that. It can get you really, feeling like there's no way out of this dark hole. But I am glad to see it now, and I just hope to be part of the shift in helping other people see it. The Red Pill movie really is just kind of a crash course 101, mainly for an audience of people who are where I was 5 years ago in the feminist mindset. I really want more feminists to watch it. It wasn't made for people who are already kind of, red-pilled and see through the smoke screen. But yeah, it is a deep rabbit hole, and it is in every walk of life that you see it. And at times it feels like I don't know if it'll ever change, because it also, the more that I think new media is trying to speak out about these issues, and my film and other people who are doing work like this, I think the more the really rigid mindsets of radical feminists and radical liberals really dig their heels in even more into their ideology. And so it's hard to find the middle ground and reach across the aisle and have a conversation that doesn't end in screaming and slamming doors.
It really is. I think one thing is, I think the actual radical left's agenda makes no sense. And I think they can't get in a debate with you, so they can only scream you down and only call you all the names, the racists and the sexists and all that stuff. I noticed the one thing about the men's movement that always kind of bothered me is that I always felt that they sort of adopted the left's victim mentality. Like, so in other words, they were saying, like, they were basically, if you can't beat them, join them. If you're going to win points for being victims, we're going to be even greater victims. I sort of feel like the whole victim battle, the whole victimhood battle could maybe be cast aside. Really, nobody in America is a victim, except people who are victims of a crime or something like that. No group in America is a victim. We're not oppressed here.
Yeah. That is definitely a worry that I've always had about the men's rights movement. And that's a large part of why I'm not a men's rights activist. And after making the Red Pill movie, I'm no longer a feminist. And I don't have a label. I haven't adopted egalitarian or equalist. So, I'm labelless if people allow me to be that. So, but yeah, I do worry about the men's rights movement mimicking or mirroring many of the flaws of the feminist movement. But I also understand why their work is valuable and important, because we do have this pendulum swing, and I do think that third wave feminism, or whatever feminism wave we're in right now, has swung so far. And what really helped me kind of break out of that feminist mindset shell was learning all the different ways that men are discriminated against or disadvantaged uniquely. And And while through that process of learning those many issues, I realized that neither of us is better or worse off. We're all just individuals that have different circumstances, and certainly, many different factors play into that. And we should really just have compassion for one another, regardless of trying to, tally up the points on who has it worse. And I definitely think the overgeneralization aspect of feminism is very problematic just the fact that they say they're the movement for gender equality and they're about helping and protecting women. And yet, like, one of their big issues is we need more female directors. And there's a lot of initiatives in Hollywood trying to get more female filmmakers, but you have to be a feminist. And that's why I say that feminism isn't for women, it's for feminism, because it is for a political ideology. It's not just for women as half of the population.
Well, that was a big revelation to me, too, is that leftism is for leftists. I mean, that's the whole thing, is that everywhere that leftists work, they say they're for blacks, they say they're for women, they say they're for the minorities, but really it's for the principle of, they're using those people to build the principle of greater government and greater government control over individuals. So here we are in the middle of this huge sex scandal, and I'm out in Hollywood, and I work in Hollywood, and I know a lot of this stuff does go on, and I certainly know that almost everyone, look, every man has done something he regrets, and every woman has paid the price for that at some point. How do you look at this now that you no longer have a label? I mean, I don't feel this is actually a feminist issue. I feel it's an issue of how people treat each other. But I mean, how do you look at it?
Well, I'm both glad and terrified that you're asking me about this topic because I've never spoken on it before, and I have so many thoughts on it. And I have a lot of cognitive dissonance around this topic of the Hollywood sexual harassment kind of witch hunt and all these stories coming out. Obviously, it should go without saying, but I have to say it because I'll be attacked if I don't say it. Absolutely, groping, indecent exposure, obviously rape, all of that is vile, detestable, and inexcusable behavior, and do not support that under any means. And now this is where I'm going to get in trouble.
Go ahead.
But I do think that the definitions are being blurred. With a lot of these stories as well, I think there have been many women that have come out with stories and not necessarily themselves saying, I am a victim, XYZ. They're just saying, oh, yeah, that person, I had a horrible experience with him, roll their eyes and move on. But then their story is being printed as, a sexual harassment or assault allegation against that person. For instance, with Ben Affleck, well, his is unique because, this is footage that was filmed. It was a producer on his lap. You could see what's happening. And she never came out and said, I am a victim. This was not consensual contact. Her story is that they were doing a bit, and this is something that they were doing for the camera. Right. So she is not saying I was assaulted. But he is being listed as one of the many men on websites or articles that are saying, here are all the perpetrators, not even using the word alleged before that, but here are all the perpetrators in Hollywood, and showing all these men. So absolutely, I think many of these stories are detestable, and I'm so glad that the women are coming out and speaking, and I'm glad that a lot of women are feeling more confident in sharing their stories if they are true stories. And I know just saying if is going to be upsetting to a lot of people, but I, above all else, think we need to uphold due process, justice, innocence until proven guilty, because that could be your son, your husband, or your daughter or wife accused of something. Although I do think that men who are accused are more likely to be believed as the perpetrator than when it's a female alleged victim and a male alleged perpetrator.
Yeah, every time I hear somebody say women have a right to be believed, I thought, where did that right come from? Nobody has a right to be believed. We all have a right to be heard, but I mean, then you have to prove your allegations. So,
This is where I have cognitive dissonance, because I really have a difficulty with this topic, because it is so hard to prove what happens behind closed doors between two people when there's not witnesses or video camera footage or something to prove his word, her word, whatever it is. And so that's where I really struggle with this topic, because I can completely see how, true victims can have a story and they can't prove it. And when do we allow that belief in them? So this is where I struggle with this topic.
No, it's very tough. I mean, this when I was a kid, people used to say rape is the easiest charge to make and the hardest to prove. But you can turn that around on its head too, because just because it's hard to prove means that people can get away with it. And you're absolutely right. It's a really difficult thing, and there are gray areas, and people lie, and it's a very tough thing. But I think to discuss it in those complex terms is much different than to hang people from the lamppost, just as feminist victims. So what are you going to do next? What's up for you? Are you working on a film?
Oh, I want to start a film project in the new year. So I'm just going to take the holidays this year to unwind after the red pill. It's been a busy year of trying to correct all the misinformation out there. But I do hope people go and watch it. Amazon Prime, Hulu, anywhere you can find online, except Netflix. They were the only ones that adamantly declined.
They turned it down, huh?
Netflix was the only one, yeah.
Wow. Well, Cassie Jaye, it's really a pleasure talking to you, and I look forward to your next project, and we'll bring you back on when you have something else to show us.
Sounds great. Thanks, Andrew.
Thanks a lot, Cassie. Boy, that's really interesting. I have to say, as somebody who's kind of been through this, I welcome her to the real world, but the Matrix is a lot more comfortable. All right.